This is Hannibal from the HannibalTV.com, and today is my special guest. We have a man that's worked for every major wrestling company. He's probably best remembered for managing Rob Van Dam and Sabu, as well as being in the ring when the Bruiser Brody Lex Luger incident happened, which we'll ask him about. Bill Alfonso, former WWE referee as well. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great, Hannibal. Thanks for having me on the show, and hello to everybody out there watching, Daddy.
And you were also Giant Gonzalez's handler too, weren't you?
I was a personal assistant for 3 years, a personal handler worldwide. It was the tallest athlete on the planet. It was pretty freaking cool.
I understand. I don't know if this is true or not, but somebody told me a story that you had to warm up one of his groupies at one point.
She wasn't a groupie. Well, he met her at, well, listen, he had the Giant's disease, and like Andre, God bless Andre, when he gets the Giant's disease, the bones keep growing, the skull gets big and the jaws and everything keeps growing. Well, his didn't start fully, so he was actually a good-looking kid. He was just big. So we'd go to the mall, and we'd have housewives following us around. So we're at a Marriott in California, and it was very usual for him to call me at 3 o'clock in the morning and say, "Hey, Fonzie, I'm a little hungry. Would you mind going to get me 8 In-N-Out burgers?" Of course, Giant. That's my job. Yeah, of course, no problem. So he calls me up. I go down to his room. I got a door. He answers. He's naked. I said, "Giant, what are you doing naked?" Answering the door. He says, "Fonzie, I got a problem." I said, "What is it?" So he opens the door a little bit more. There's a beautiful blonde. I mean, stunning, like Sunny. Remember Sunny from the manager, and like Pamela Ann, she's blonde, yeah, beautiful, and she's naked, laying in the bed. I said, "Wow, it's crazy." I said, "What's the problem?" He says, "Well, my fucking shit is too." Can I cuss? Of course. He said, "My junk is too fat. I can't get it inside her. Would you mind warming her up for me? And after you get it warmed up and loosen up, you leave, and I'll start." And I said, I got embarrassed, but the girl says, "Please, Fonzie, help us. Please, Fonzie." It was the craziest thing I ever seen, brother. And I warmed her up for Giant Gonzalez. That was my job that night, to warm up a girl for the largest athlete on the planet. It's pretty cool.
We never really saw the other side of him because there was no internet back then, and they kept it pretty kayfabe. What was he like as a person?
He was just like me and you, brother. He was just big as hell. He was pretty cool. He was a jokester. He was kind of shy a little bit because he was always stared at, gawked at, and he was a little people shy because of that. But when we were traveling together, we had a ball, man. We would do all kind of stuff together. Like, for instance, we worked for Ted Turner in Atlanta, and in the early 90s, the Atlanta Braves, the baseball team, was doing spectacular. They were winning World Series and shit. So Ted Turner would have the Giant go sit in Ted Turner's box, like where him and Jimmy Carter would sit, the president of the United States, for the commentator to say, "Hey, the Braves are doing so good." Oh, they pan over to the Giant. Even the Braves are bringing out the Giant. So I was getting all kind of perks like that, hanging out with the Giant. And he was spectacular, man. You would have loved him if you ever met him, Daddy.
As far as that Thunder in Paradise appearance that he did with Hulk Hogan, were you with him when he did that?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I got a picture. I'm going to have to show you. Okay, where's that at? Dope ass picture. Come on, Fonzie. Oh, here it is. So, Thunder in Paradise was cool. I was in the pilot, but I was playing volleyball on the beach. I didn't have any part, you know what I mean? I was just a fill-in. But look at this picture. I'm not short at all. I'm 5'10". Hulk Hogan's definitely not short. He's 6'4" or 5", whatever he is. Look how big this guy is, man. He was massive. So, yeah, this was on the set of Thunder in Paradise.
That's pretty cool. I remember that show with Giant Gonzalez in it, and I thought that was a good show. Did you get laid by any of the beach girls on that set?
Nah, unfortunately, no. But Carol Alt, who was a supermodel and still a big superstar, she was on it. She was stunningly beautiful. I became friends with her, but she's happily married and all that. Um, but I did get my share of action hanging out with the Giant. You know what I mean? Pretty cool.
You mentioned Sonny earlier, who used to be 10 out of 10, not so much these days. I'm sure you met her in ECW. What
Oh
are your
yeah, we
thoughts
worked
on her?
together extensively. Yeah, she was pretty cool with me.
Was she nice to you throughout the years? You probably knew her a
Oh,
bit in
yeah, her and
WWE.
I had a great relationship. She had to heat with some of the guys, but not me. I got along with everybody, especially her. She was beautiful when she was working for Vince McMahon. She would do those promos. She had that charisma. She was good looking. I haven't seen her in a long time, but yeah, she was stunningly beautiful, and I got along with her pretty cool.
What did you think about her relationship with Chris Candido? Some people said he was cool with her sleeping around. Other people said he wasn't, but he stayed with her anyways.
It hurt my feelings to see some of the stuff she was, dating other guys and hanging out with other dudes, and she was going with Chris, and Chris was really in love with her, crazy. That's one of the only things I didn't like about Sunny. She's a little promiscuous or whatever, but whatever. If Chris didn't mind it, why should I? But it kind of hurt my heart a little bit for Chris, but you know,
John wants to know if you were a stooge for WCW.
when is he talking about like I was the what would you call that? Like, no, I wasn't. But I did get that question a few times. For some reason, you remember when a lot of the talent was leaving ECW because they
Oh
were being
yeah, they were
offered.
calling a mole. They were saying there
Yes,
was like
yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
mole.
No, not even 1 ounce of truth to that. Guys were leaving because they were offering them big money. Hey, coming for 250 a year, signed, starting at 250 next year, 350 next year, 450. How can you turn that down? So I had to. So for some reason, they thought I was a middleman in between that. No, not at all.
Yeah, I heard that about you and Todd Gordon, but there's all kinds of rumors in wrestling, and of course they're going to take the money.
Right, right. And they didn't have to go through me. All they had to do is pick up the phone and call Sandman. All they had to do is pick up the phone and call, any of the guys. They didn't have to go through me. That was ridiculous. But yeah, there was a little bit of a rumor. Me and Todd Gordon were moles, but no, not 1 ounce of truth to that.
How was your pay in ECW? Did you ever have any issues with Paul Heyman, or was he good to you overall?
He was very good to me. In 5 years that I was there, I only worked Friday and Saturdays and made $250,000 in 5 years. Not bad pay. Never got a bad check. We got to remember, back in those days, we ECW had no corporate sponsors. We were borrowing money from Peter to pay Paul to drive. We were making like say $3 million a year, but we were spending 3.5. So it was hard. I never had an issue. I never had an issue. Now some guys might have. I'm sure some of that was going on because the budget was tight, but I had no issue with Paul Heyman in my checks ever, ever.
Steve wants to know if you were in the car with Raven and Sandman when Sandman had his overdose.
Yeah, I'm the one who said, okay, Raven was fucking driving. Sandman's in the front seat. I'm behind Raven, and little Guido was behind Sandman. We're traveling from one town to another. After the match is 11 o'clock, we're driving 3 hours to the next town for tomorrow. So Sandman wanted to try this new drug that Raven had. And Raven has no trouble saying this, he wanted to try this new drug. It was OxyContin. It was 80 milligrams. And Raven said, "Oh, Sandman, don't do that. You've been drinking all fucking day, and this is the strongest one. You should start off with a little one, like a 20 milligram or something. Don't jump to an 80." And Sandman said, "Oh, just give me the 80." So Sandman took the fucking 80, right? About An hour later, we're driving on the road, and Sandman starts going, having trouble breathing, and he's passed out. And I said, Raven, something's wrong with Sandman. And Raven said, he's all right. I said, no, his lips are turning blue, Daddy. He was fucking dying. So we called 911 on the fucking interstate. 911, and this is what we told the operator. Hey, one of the wrestlers got hurt tonight, so he took this pill and he's having a reaction to it, and he can't breathe. And she says, what exit are you on? We said, exit 192, mile marker 192. She said, we get off on the next exit and we'll have the ambulance meet you at the gas station. It was close. So when we get off the exit and go to the gas station, 6 police cars pull up, an ambulance and all kind of shit. They thought I said, hey, we were wrestling in a big fight at the gas station. They got miscommunicated. And so they thought there was a big riot or something. So they all rushed us. And I said, no, relax, Daddy. He just took a medicine because he got hurt and he's having a bad reaction. Actually, he was ODing. So they rushed him to the hospital. They gave him that fucking shot of narco. And you know what Sandman said to us once he got out of the hospital? Take a guess.
Do you have any more of that shit?
Kind of close. He said, man, why'd you guys fucking take me to the hospital? You ruined my high. Sandman, you were fucking dying, brother. Your lips were turning blue, Daddy. It was crazy. He was mad at us for the day, you know? And of course, Raven won't give him any more shit. But that's a true story, brother.
Wow. Screaming Baboon is amazed that you were never stiffed by Paul, and he wants to know what the best backstage fight you've ever seen between a Mark and the boys is, or a bar fight, or any fight that was legit.
I'll give you, for instance, okay, we were in Philadelphia, and we should stay at Holiday Inn right next to where they play football, the Philadelphia Eagles. And there was a bunch of boys like New Jack and Mustafa, Eliminators, a couple more of the guys that were checking out. They had checked in. So I'm sitting in the lobby watching the guys check in, right? And this guy was sitting next to me. They were a rugby team. The rugby guys are pretty tough guys. And the rugby guy turns to me and says, man, who are all those big guys? I said, I think he didn't know who I was. I said, I think they're wrestlers or something like that. He said, well, they don't look so tough to me. I can probably beat their ass. I said, and I said to the rugby player, pretty stout guy, and I'm 165. I said to the rugby player, said, you can beat them up. I said, brother, you couldn't even beat your fucking dead grandmother up, you fucking piece of shit. I was trying to pick a fight with him, and I did. The guy said, what did you say? And he got up and started swinging on me. So I put my face in his chest so he couldn't hit my face. He was hitting me in the head. He only hit me 3 or 4 times before New Jack turned around and said, hey, that motherfucker's beating Fonzie up. Brother, they beat that guy half to death. They beat his ass. He was crawling out of the hotel when they were beating his ass. He crawled, and he had all his rugby boys too with him, like 6 of them. They wouldn't step up to the plate. They seen all the wrestlers beating the fuck out of this guy, and they finally get him in this van, and the boys almost flipped the van over. They were rocking it and shit as they were driving off. So, but the guy stuck his foot in his own mouth because he said, "Oh, I can beat their ass. They're nothing. They don't look tough to me," and, you know. But
I hear that you say you're 165. You used to be a fighter. I mean, when you broke in, that would be small for a wrestler. But today, 5'10", 165, you'd be bigger than a lot of them. Do you think you would have been an actual wrestler today if you'd be getting into the business now?
I don't know. I wanted to wrestle. How I got into business, I wanted to be a wrestler, but I got introduced to professional wrestling when I was about 11 or 12 years old, and I fell in love with it. The first time I walked in, is Eddie Graham and Bobby Shane and the blonde hair and the great Malenko and Bobo Brazil. They amazed me. I said, damn, that's what I want to do. I want to be a wrestler. I'm 11, 12 years old. And as you know, I was too small because the guys were big back then. But I started going to wrestling and watching it, and I ended up meeting Rocky Johnson and King Curtis and becoming friends with them. and I would be a runner, like go get sandwiches for him or pick him up at the airport. We became friends, and he said, "You know, Fonzie, you'd make a hell of a referee because you're small. You're gonna make us look big. You love the business, so let's see if we can get you involved." And I said, "Really? Oh my God!" Then I worked my way into it. That was in 1978. And I was trying to get in for about 2 years, but it's real tight. It's really hard to get into wrestling, especially back then. But then I I started in May in 1980 full time with Florida Championship Wrestling with Dusty Rhodes and Gordon Solie and so on. And I've been in the business ever since. And I'm still relevant today, talking to you and all your super fans out there, Daddy. I love the business. I love it. It's been good to me. So over 40 years, I've been full time. Worked for all the major companies, like you said, Florida Championship Wrestling, Jim Crockett's, WCW, WWF, been to Japan 13 times, been all over the world and been blessed. So, in fact, I got lucky and didn't become a wrestler because the lifespan of a wrestler is short. I'd be, by this time, if I was like Hulk Hogan's had his 11th operation, back surgery, plastic hips, and so on. So I'd be all banged up. I was just a referee and manager, and I got titanium plates. I got steel things. My shoulders have been separated. I've had light surgery on my back. I've had hundreds of stitches all over my head, almost bled to death by Beulah. So I'm saying I say my body as being a referee. So I got lucky that way. I wanted to wrestle. I wanted to be on stage, but I was on stage being a referee. It was the next best thing.
You mentioned you were in Japan. Michael says, do you have any memories of the Ric Flair versus Tatsumi Fujinami match that you refereed?
Yep. So I wasn't in WCW yet. I was just coming out of Florida, and Hiro Matsuda is a famous Japanese wrestler. He was a part of Florida Championship Wrestling, and he would book the American guys and Japan with, book guys back and forth. And so this was the first big joint show, WCW and, United States and the Japanese office got together, ran a joint show, 65,000 people indoor at the Tokyo Dome. And Hiro Matsuda calls me up because I was refereeing for 8 years. I was really a good referee. I would say a great referee because I took the business serious. I love the business, and I was just good. And they said, Fonzie, we're having this big joint show, first time together, WCW and Japanese office, and Ric Flair against Fujinami. We're going to fly you over and pay you good. We want you to be the referee. I said, great, thankful. I was thankful. So I said, what can I do? I already know I'm going to be good in the ring at what I do, but I want to look good. So I went out, of course, and I bought the designer white shirt. I had my poor old dear mom who passed away. Mom, God bless you. Sew a Japanese flag and the U.S. flag. So United States versus Japan. Beautiful designer bow tie. I was looking like $1 million. Haircut perfect. And I did the match and it was good. And the match got over. We did a follow-up where the match was, I take a bump, the referee takes a bump, and Flair gets thrown over the top rope. But I see it, but I'm selling on the floor like, I got hurt. And the other referee, Japanese referee, comes down and Fujinami pins Flair, and the referee counts 1, 2, 3, new world champion. And I get up going, no, over the top rope. Those people wanted to fucking hang me, the Japanese people. And they don't cheer like our fans here. They clap, ooh, this will have, different culture. And they had a great match. And after the match, I did so well. I took the bump good. I looked like $1 million. Ted Turner offered me a 3-year contract and a 6-figure salary and of course I signed, and it was great. WCW, Daddy.
Screaming Baboon wants to know who was the best Japanese wrestler you worked with.
Damn, there's so many. You know, Tanaka that came and worked in ECW with Mike Awesome, great wrestler. You know, Muda, the great Muda, Kendo Nagasaki, Hiro Matsudo, I mentioned earlier, all these guys, different generations. There's so many great wrestling, Japanese wrestlers out there. It's hard to point one out. Like, who would be my favorite wrestler here, who I think's good? You know, RVD, of course, and several other guys, but too much talent to put that all on one guy. But I like those guys that I just mentioned pretty well. And there's so many that I did. There's so many different companies. There was a few different companies, Giant Baba and all them, a couple of different companies. There was a lot of good talent out of Japan. But
Mason wants to know about your Bubba the Love Sponge match in ECW where he beat you. He said he feels that was a disgrace that they put him over.
Well, he was a big DJ. And what's the guy's name who asked the question?
Mason.
Oh, hey, Mason, Daddy. Damn, you remember that? Thanks, Mason, for the cool question. Well, he was a big DJ in Tampa, so we wanted to get, and he loved wrestling too. He wanted to be a wrestler, a big fat guy, and so we used it. We did a little angle where he ends up fighting me in the match, and we drew pretty good. We sold out the small building, the fairgrounds, 3,000 or 4,000 people, whatever it was, and so he's a non-wrestler, never wrestled before in his life. So we talked over a little bit, kind of a format, what we're kind of going to do in the ring. So you know that old saying, the deer in the headlight, where he can't see or he can't hear because he's blinded by the lights. So we get in the ring, and I guess Bubba the Love Sponge, you would think he'd be a natural because in the entertainment business, he's a DJ, for Christ's sakes. So we lock up, he puts me in the turnbuckle and he hits me in the head. Bam! I said, damn, easy, brother. He couldn't hear me. I'm this far from him. I'm telling him, hey, loosen up, you're killing me. Bam, he hits me again. I had like 4 or 5 big knots on my head. He was hitting me harder and harder as I was telling him, loosen up, don't hit me so hard, you're killing me, brother. And he was hitting me harder. So the receipt that he got was that Van Dam and Sabu came down to the ring, and they put him through a table or pie. They beat the fuck out of him for a second, so he got his. Yeah, I don't know why Paul put him over, but I think that was just part of his deal. He said to Paul Heyman, I got to win the match by Fonzie, and I got to get this amount, X amount of dollars. So we paid him his X amount of dollars, and we put him over. But with his power on the radio, he increased our crowd, so it worked out okay. And I didn't mind doing the job. Didn't hurt me a bit. I could get beat every night and not hurt me. I was pretty hot. I was managing the 2 top guys, so it didn't hurt me at all.
Yeah, I don't think Bobby Heenan ever won one of his Weasel suit matches either, and he never lost any heat.
Right. We don't have to win. You know what I mean? It was easy. It was easy. I'm getting a little honey because my voice is getting a little scratchy.
No problem.
I've been up all night. I came from Florida up to New York. I haven't slept since 1982 anyway, but sometimes my voice gets a little scraggly, because I used to smoke cigarettes, and I still smoke a little pot once in a while.
We're cool with that on this channel. It's legal in Canada.
Hey, Daddy.
RVD was actually smoking during our interview with him a few weeks ago.
Really? That's my boy. I love RVD. We were in High Times magazine, right?
Yeah, that was really cool. Ivalid and a bunch of other fans have asked, I guess Chris Jericho insulted you a few months ago. That's as you drink your honey. What was the heat with Jericho all about?
I didn't know that.
Apparently he called you a crackhead on his podcast.
I haven't heard anything about that, and I've never done crack in my life. I like good Pacalolo. That's about as much drug. I would take a pain pill now and then from the doctor, but I don't know why he said that. In fact, I'm going to call him up and say, hey, Daddy, I was doing an interview with Canada's Greatest, and he said that you called me something. Why would you say such a thing? You don't. We know each other from wrestling, but I don't know why you would say that. That's insulting. I don't like it. Chris Jericho, you get a little heat if you did say that.
I didn't hear it, but there's
like
been
Chris
about
Jericho,
three fans have mentioned it on here, so I'm going to guess that it's possible, but I don't know what the context was that he said it.
Yeah, I don't understand why he would say such a thing. We didn't travel together, so you don't know anything about my personal life or anything like that, but it's a little bit of insult, Chris. We'll straighten it out. I'm sure it was some type of mistake, or you were thinking somebody else, Daddy.
As far as Rob Van Dam, could you share some memories of managing him? Because he's very well liked on this channel.
Van Dam's one of my favorite wrestlers. He is badass. I love that 5-star frog splash. And he used to love working, me being his manager, because we get along so good. We travel together, and we used to do all kind of spots together, and I would be on time we did a thing called the hot potato. It was a chair where I throw him the chair. He would throw it back to me. I would throw it to the wrestler. He would do that Van Dam, that big kick into the chair into the head. Oh, man, we had some great spots. He included me in a lot of stuff. He made me look like a star. Well, I was kind of a star in ECW. Not kind of. I was on top managing badass, the longest reigning TV guy, the belt and Sabu and all. Taz. Oh, we forgot about Taz. I managed Taz.
Were you there for the Taz altercation with Rob Van Dam when Rob slapped him?
Yes, I was 3 feet away from Rob.
Were you surprised that Taz just took it?
I was very surprised at the whole incident because it stemmed from a week before, and I didn't know what was going on at all. And I'm aware of our dressing room. I'm aware of what's going on, but I didn't know. We were taking a drive from Philadelphia to somewhere in New York, like about a 2-hour drive or something, and we pull in, and Van Dam shows we couldn't tell if Van Dam was mad. It was just a normal day, and we walk into the dressing room, and Van Dam puts his bag down, and there's Taz sitting on the chair, and Van Dam walks right up to him and has that altercation. And I'm surprised, but Van Dam's badass. So if Taz would have got up, and he would have got his ass kicked.
Did Taz lose any respect in the locker room after that, or was it?
Of course he did. I wouldn't have got up either, to tell you the truth, because Van Dam is really tough, badass. Yeah, of course he lost a little respect for not getting up. So what? You get your ass beat. It would only been a 30-second fight or something. Taz would have got knocked out or something, I believe. And Taz is a hell of a guy. But shit like that happens, man. And I don't want to rub Taz the wrong way. I'm not scared of Taz or anything. I just don't want to, talk about. We're not talking bad about it. We're talking about an incident that's known already, and it's called pick a hand. You know that, right?
Yeah. Rob talked to us about it too. So it was an unusual way of slapping somebody. That's one of the reasons why it's so well remembered.
Yes, big hand. I actually thought it was pretty cool. But two of my friends, you know what I mean? I hate to see something like that. But, things like that happen. A lot of testosterone, a lot of egos, a lot of characters, a lot of different personalities. They're bound to clash once in a while. We're working every night together somewhere. It was bound to clash. And maybe Taz deserved it. Maybe he didn't. But it did happen. And, I think he did lose a little bit of respect. But Taz was a pretty tough guy, pretty cool guy. I'm sorry it happened, but it did.
2517 Kills says that Jericho's comment about you was when he did a podcast with Dr. Luther. Just to be more specific, just so you know about that. Okay. And you got another question here. What was the worst riot you had to work through in your wrestling career?
Oh, my God, there's been a few. Miami Beach Convention Center in the early 80s. Dusty was the booker, and we used to do when we worked Florida Championship Wrestling for Florida. It was Dusty and Gordon Soley and all them, and it was a territory. You got to remember different territories throughout the United States, like Devon Erickson, Texas, Bill Watson, Louisiana, Jim Crockett in the Carolinas, and it goes on and on. So fuck, I forgot my train of thought here. I'll get it back. So anyway, every Monday night we were in West Palm Beach. Every Tuesday night, Tampa. Every Wednesday, Miami. Every Thursday, Jacksonville. Every Friday was a spot show. Saturday was a spot show, and Sunday was Orlando. And it repeated itself week after week after week, years after years, the same towns. How can you sell out? We sold out Miami Beach Convention Center. I think it was 61 or 62. I forget the exact number. Weeks in a row, sold out. You couldn't do that today. So, and it was a real diverse crowd. A lot of different races. There was blacks. There was Bahamians. There was Cubans. There was all kind of mixed crowd, and they loved wrestling. And man, something happened. I think it was. Jody Hamilton, Nick Patrick used to be the referee for WCW. His dad, Jody Hamilton, was one of the Assassins. And it was Mike Graham and Dusty Rhodes against the Assassins. And they beat the shit out of, the heels, boom, boom, boom. And they did something real sneaky to Mike Graham. And the people exploded like a loser leaf towel. That's a real dirty move. Boom, real heat-seeking thing. And, man, a freaking riot broke out. And Jody Hamilton, the masked assassin, now we got to walk maybe 100 feet from the ring to the dressing room, and the cops, they had German shepherds and everything. This is how crazy the crowd was, that they had to bring the police dogs in to keep it normal. This was there was no riot. This was just normal shit. And when the riot broke out, Jody Hamilton says, "Follow me, kid." And he put me right behind him, and he burst through all these people, with chairs were flying, and people were fighting each other and trying to get to the assassin. And it was crazy, brother. I thought I heard gunfire, but I don't think so. I thought that. I heard a big pop. I said, man, they're pulling out guns. It's crazy. But it wasn't again. It was just some pop or something. But that was the worst riot. Miami Beach Convention Center, I'd say it was probably 1982. And if I wouldn't have went behind Jody Hamilton, the masked assassin, they would have tore me apart, because I didn't see, how the referee misses something and counts 1, 2, 3, and they take the heat on the referee. And so they wanted to kill me. They were after me too, because I made a bad call. So I was lucky that I didn't get my ass tore up that night.
I miss those days when fans took wrestling that seriously.
It was serious. Wrestling was a different era. We're talking about the 80s. Wrestling was real protected now. Now, social media and the wrestling has been exposed for so many years. People know where to work. Back then, they said, man, is wrestling real, or is it gimmicked, or is it choreographed? They don't know. We still had them. They believed. What was the question I forgot?
It wasn't a question. Just back then, because of the riots and stuff, they believed more than they do today.
Yeah, it was real. They took their wrestling real serious, really serious, man. Really
serious. Wants to know who the biggest whore in the business is. I guess this could be a male or female.
Me?
You?
No, I'm kidding. No, I wasn't a big whore. Damn. Well, I'll tell you who the women liked. The women love Rick Rude. The women love Marty Jannetty. The women love Barry Windham. And, they weren't big whores. I'm just saying that people were, the guys wanted to be like them, and the women wanted to be with them,
Yeah, I wish I could say I was a big whore too in that way, but unfortunately I never had them lined up like those guys did.
Right. But I was around it all the time, but you had mentioned her name earlier.
Sonny?
I don't want to point no fingers, because that's a bad thing to say. You know what I mean? international freaking we're on an international broadcast.
International,
right
yeah.
here.
There's somebody's checked in from Australia earlier, so there's people
Really?
all over
Hey,
watching.
Australia, Daddy. Damn, welcome to our podcast. Hannibal is badass. Apparently, he's doing really good, and he loves the business just like me. So that's good for you guys. Thanks, Hannibal, for being such a big supporter of the business. You love it just like I do. You want me doing what you're doing. So
especially the ECW guys. I have a soft spot for all the ECW guys.
Me
That was
too.
one of the best companies ever, for sure.
We were a small company, man, making it, doing the best we could, and man, did we produce some stars, man.
Matt R. and some other fans have been asking if you could tell your side of the Bruiser Brody versus Lex Luger cage match. I got Lex's side, and he said after they talked, I've heard you say before that Lex is lying about that. So maybe
I don't want to say lying, maybe you don't remember. This is what I remember. Now, Lex is relatively new in the business, you know, and Hiro Matsuda, the Japanese wrestler that I mentioned earlier, he was part of the Florida Championship Wrestling office. You know, he's one of the owners, a small owner of the company. So he trained Lex, and they thought Lex was going to be the next Ric Flair. They thought it was, and he did pretty well. He had that good body, but he wasn't that classic of a worker. You know, it's hard for him to, you know, but he got over to a certain extent. So I think it was a bad booking. What happened was a bad booking because for a year they've been handpicking Lex's opponents, giving them, you know what I mean, making him a star, and he was developing a personality. He was developing his skill, and he was also getting a little bit of a not a cocky attitude. It was, you know, not a big shot. It went to his head a little bit, but Lex is a great guy. I like him. So I think it was a bad booking. They shouldn't have put Lex Luger, who's been getting his opponents handpicked for him, and they've been putting him over. They're making him a star, and all of a sudden they put him in a cage match out of the fucking blue. And Brody, and I love Brody. Brody wasn't in territory; he was just passing through. You know how the guys would come in for the week, the world champion would come in for a week, make the loop. Abdullah would come in for the week, make the loop. Fabulous Moolah would come in for the week. The midgets would come in for the week. So Brody came in for the week, and they put him with Lex Luger in a steel cage, and Lex is kind of inexperienced, and Bruiser Brody was temperamental. He had a big ego. He had been in the business for years. He's working with this young guy. They're trying to groom him and make him a big superstar. It was a bad booking. They should have put those together. And it wasn't Lex's fault, but Lex should have listened to Brody, and there was some miscommunication, and Lex was trying to do something in the ring, and Brody wasn't reacting, and he didn't actually beat him up physically real bad or nothing. He was a little stiff with him, but wouldn't sell for Lex or anything. And he said, Fonzie, what's going on? What's going on? He won't talk to me. You know, he got scared. He said, Fonzie, what do I do? I said, well, grab me and throw me against the cage. I'll disqualify you or something or whatever. So he grabbed me, threw me. But we're in a cage, you know, so how could I disqualify him? So he threw me, and he just jumped over the cage and all that. And I rang the bell and disqualified him or whatever I did. But it was a bad booking. It was a bad booking. That was the Florida Championship Wrestling's office fault for putting that match together. But look, we're still talking about it. That's the two biggest questions when I do like a fan fest or a convention or a podcast or mine with the fabulous Canadian Hannibal, who's got a big following, ask me these questions. That's the biggest question I get about me and Beulah, where I fought Beulah and I got busted open and I got a little bit of juice. And they always ask me about the Lex Luger. I always tell them the same thing. It was a bad booking, and that was it, you know.
Did anyone say anything to you after about the match, like the booker? Who was the booker for that night anyways?
I think it was Wyoming Daniel maybe at that time. I went through a lot of bookers. No, not particular. What are they going to say? You know, they go talk to Brody if you're going to do it. They didn't say what happened because they seen what happened. And actually, none of the big office personnel was there, so they heard about it, but no, not really. They didn't say, "Oh, Fonzie, what happened?" And I said it was just a bad booking.
I guess that question brought
Lex ended up becoming a big star, and making millions of dollars. And we all know what happened to Bruiser Brody. God bless him. I loved Bruiser Brody. He was a big attraction, a big star, and to end up dying that way like he did was terrible, man. It shocked the wrestling world. We all felt so bad. In fact, yesterday I was in Tampa, that's where I live, and we have a Legends lunch every couple months. And Bruiser Brody's wife was there. She was accepting an award, Legend Award.
And I saw in the pictures from that Haku was there too. Who's
Haku, a bunch of the boys were there. We had a luncheon. Everybody comes in there. Bugsy McGraw. There's so many guys there. Again, Steve Kern, Brian Blair, Haku was there. A bunch of guys, but it's always packed. Rocky Johnson used to go all the time. Jerry Briscoe's there all the time.
Are you surprised WWE fired Jerry Briscoe? I know that he helped you break into the business.
Yeah, he sure did. Damn, you know a lot about me, Daddy. Hannibal, you do your research. And you love the business. That's why you know a lot about it, because you love the business like I do. Was I surprised they fired Jerry Briscoe? No, because everybody's replaceable, and Jerry's not in great health right now. You know what I mean? So I don't know if they actually fired him. Is that what happened? They said you're fired, like that?
Well, no. First they put him on furlough, then they released him months later.
Well, look, the virus is out. 19. They have to cut the budget. You know what I mean? But Gerald's well off. Gerald don't have to worry about anything. He's successful, wealthy. But shit happens. I was surprised to hear that from you. I didn't hear that he got fired, but they let him go. Vince lets a lot of guys go, and I'm one of them. Vince let me go. I'll tell you the story if you want to hear it.
Sure. I'll just have a quick question from Angel here. Did RVD ever face Ultimo Dragon? He wants to know.
I don't know.
All right. Well, let's get into the story. You were a referee, and they released you from WWE.
Well, how I got to WWE was I was an personal assistant for Giant Gonzalez, the largest athlete on the planet at that time. Still, was nobody taller than him. So we left WCW and went to WWF, as it was WWF at the time. And we were there for a while. I did WrestleMania 9 and all that kind of stuff. It was really cool. I love Vince. He paid me well. I did a great job. And I guess in 93, after WrestleMania, almost 94, before WrestleMania 10, that the company wasn't making money like it has been. So they had to tighten the belt a little bit and cut expenses. Say they were making $46 million a year. The year before, they only made 38. So, the expenses were the same. So they had to cut the belt up, and I was a big expense for them, to pay me six figures. So the guy that was in charge of the referees came up to me out of the blue. It was like on a Monday night. He came up to me and said, Fonzie, you finish up next week. You're done. Rude like that. That's no way to let nobody go. You know what I mean? You talk to him, I'm a fucking grown man. I got a family. You can't just walk up to me and tell me I'm finished up because I'm a referee. Would he talk to Hulk Hogan like that? No. Would he talk to Ultimate Warrior like that? No. Would he talk to Bill Alfonso like that? He did. And I went right to Vince. I said, Vince, I understand we're tightening the belt, and I was one of the last referees you hired. And, if you got to let anybody go, it would be me, because the other guys have been there 4 years. I've only been there 2. So it was natural. But the way that Steve, I'll try to remember his last name, Steve, I forgot his name, but I'll call him out. I'll tell him, pick a hand if I ever see him, bitch. So I
Steve
wasn't mad
Lombardi?
about
Was
that
it
go.
Steve Lombardi?
No. Mm-mm. You wouldn't recognize him if you seen him. It was behind the scenes, like,
Okay.
I'll think of his name. So um, when this guy Steve told me that, I was shocked. I said, "Man, there's no way to let somebody go." So when Vince came, I said, "Vince, this is what happened." Exactly what I told you. I said the guy was rude. He gave me no notice. He just came in and he acted like he enjoyed letting me go, giving me my notice. But the way he did it, Vince, was rude and not businesslike. And he said, "What? What, Fonzie? He did that?" And Vince almost fired him for letting me go the wrong way. Be diplomatic, be business. Business is all about business, unless you're a dick or something. If you deserve to get fired, you get fired. But I didn't deserve to be treated that way. So Vince says, "I'll take care of that, Fonzie." And he says, "Listen, um, you're going to work any Florida shows that we do. Soon as business picks back up, we're going to hire you right back, and I'm going to give you a huge severance package." And he did too. Wrote me a fat ass check, and I worked when they came to Florida, and eventually I worked for him a little bit more off and on until I went to ECW.
Isban wants to know, when you met JJ Dillon with Giant Gonzalez to come to WWE, did JJ promise you guys anything?
Vince said you're going to make way more money than you did at WCW. Way. I remember him saying you make way more money. So when I called JJ to say, "JJ, we're available. We're calling you to see what our options are. If you're interested in the tallest athlete on the planet," and me as a referee, we're a package deal because he needs a handler, he needs a personal assistant. And JJ said, "Fonzie, let me get back with you. I'm going to talk to Vince about it, and I'll call you back." So he hung up. 10 minutes later, the phone rings. JJ Dillon. He says, "Vince is very interested. Can you guys fly up tomorrow for a meeting?" I said, "Yes, we can fly up tomorrow." So he flew us up. Instead of going to Titan Towers, the WWF office, we go to the limousine, takes us right to Vince's house, the $1 million, multi-million-dollar freaking beautiful mansion. There's Vince in a suit with his tennis shoes, beautiful. And me and the Giant walked in. He said, "Oh, Giant, oh." Vince is real animated and loud. He loves the Giant because he's so big, man. He amazed me every day. When I looked at this guy every day for 3 years, there's not a day went by where I didn't say, "Damn, what a God's gift." You know what I mean? What a special creature this guy is, 8-foot giant. Actually, he was 7'9" or something. We built him as 8 foot. And they promised us way more money. We end up making really good bank. I forget it. I don't know what the guy thinks JJ offered me, but does he say he just offered us more
No,
money?
he just wanted to know what the offer was. Like, if sometimes you'll say you're going to be a future champion or something like that.
No, they just said you can make way more money than you did. He asked the Giant, "How much money did you make in WCW?" He said, "Well, I made $350 the first year. The second year, I was promised $450. The third year, $500, whatever." And Vince said, "Oh, you can make way more money than that." And we ended up doing really well until the Giant started getting a little sick and his knees were giving out. He's a giant, and he's ended up turning diabetic, and the Giants don't live long. Andre died at the age of 43, and Giant Gonzalez died, in his early 40s.
I've heard Harvey Whippleman say he was giving Giant Gonzalez money towards the end of his life. Harvey doesn't seem like the type to me that would be so charitable. Do you believe that?
No. Why would Harvey Whippleman send money to Argentina? And he lived a long time after he left WCW. After he left WWF, he went back to Argentina, and he didn't get really sick until years later, and then he died, of course. But I don't see that. Why, and I was in constant contact with Giant Gonzalez. He never told me, and he saved his money. Giant Gonzalez was very frugal with his money, very smart with his money, and he made money. He made big money, so he didn't need a handout from Harvey Wilverman. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Harvey Wilverman's got a big heart that I don't know about. He might have sent the money, but I don't. Why would he send the money? Giant had plenty of money.
The brother man says he loves you and he wants to know how you and Heyman created the storyline with Francine.
Francine or Beulah?
Maybe he's confused that he means Beulah, but he's writing Francine. But let's talk about Beulah in case he is confused.
Francine and I didn't have a storyline. We just, clashed a couple of times in the ring as managers, but we didn't have any specific storyline. And actually, it wasn't a big storyline with Beulah. We just were on opposite ends. I was managing Taz and Van Dam and Sabu, and she was managing Tommy Dreamer and all that. And we had a clash, and the people wanted to see us fight each other because we'd leave cliffhangers, I'd do something to make Tommy Dreamer lose a match or help, throw him a chair to Van Dam or something. And Beulah would almost get to me, but she wouldn't. I'd slide out, and then eventually they built us as a match together, you know what I mean? And of course, we did really good in that match, and they still talk about it today. Where I was blood. Well, I got a little bit of blood right over here. You know that scar? It's like Beulah's pussy. If you turn it this way, it looks like her box. Beulah's box. Turn it this way, it looks like a boxer's cut. But I call it Beulah's box, but I had a good time with Beulah. It was just a thing where the people demanded that me and her fight each other, two non-wrestlers. Well, I'm not a wrestler. I'm a referee and a manager. So we shouldn't do any wrestling moves. We're just going to have like a good old fight. I can't do a leapfrog, arm drag, drop kick. That's not us. We're two non-wrestlers. She's a adult film star, superstar, centerfold, Penthouse Magazine, beautiful girl. And so
Tommy Dreamer married her in the end, right? I think.
Yeah, they got twins. Sure did. And I see them once in a while at a convention or something. And she's Fonzie. When I got busted open, I had to go to the hospital, get rushed to the hospital, and had to get, I forgot how many, but it was crazy amount of stitches, almost bled to death. The blood was just pumping out. They couldn't stop it. So they rushed me to the hospital, head trauma. And Beulah called me every day. She sent me flowers. She was a sweetheart. She felt so bad that, I got hurt. You know what I mean? We're all generally a family. We love each other, but, nobody wants to see nobody get hurt. And she was a sweetheart. But we stole the show that night. It's one of Paul Heyman's. If you ask Paul Heyman, name your top few matches in the ECW favorite matches, that's going to be one of them, Beulah versus Fonzie. People still talk about it today when I do the conventions. Oh, tell us about the Beulah Fonzie match, and you bled so good, and it was such a good thing. And it's been on several DVDs and stuff. It was pretty cool. It's one of Paul Heyman's favorite matches.
Screaming Baboon says he's Australian. Thanks for your words about Australians. And he asks, what's the best match you've reffed, and what makes a good match for young workers out there watching this?
When guys produce entertainment, tell a story, they know how to work, they know how to lock up. There's nothing worse than a wrestler, a young kid getting out there premature and not knowing how to tell a story, not knowing how to throw a good punch. If you can't do something good, don't do it. Like Van Dam could do the 5-star frog splash like nobody. Van Dam could drop kick like nobody. Van Dam could spin kick. He could do all kinds of stuff spectacular, but he couldn't throw a really good punch. He can now, but back then in the 90s, he couldn't throw. I said, Van Dam, you do everything so good. Do not throw that punch because it takes away from your other spectacular, nobody can do abilities. Don't throw something off that doesn't look spectacular. It takes away from you a little bit. And he didn't until he developed his good punch. Now he's a good puncher, but communication, studying matches, watching films. Some of my favorite matches were Barry Windham against Jake the Snake Roberts, and Florida Championship Wrestling. Barry Windham against Ric Flair, spectacular matches. Ric Flair against Steamboat, spectacular matches. Oh my God. And then you have a different kind of matches like Dusty Rhodes, stuff like that. Just the entertainment value of it without, Dusty didn't drop kick and do the frog splash and all that. He did the Dusty stuff. So there's different types of matches, different things. So the young guy, good advice is to watch matches and watch the whole show every night. You know what I mean? The guys go out and do something. The match before did the same thing. The match before that did the same thing. But that's the booker's fault, But the young guys got to know, man. You got to know communication is very good. Got to be really good.
A bunch of people want to know your thoughts on that insane Sabu barbed wire match. And
my God.
Comment before you answer that. Somebody from Australia again says he's watching this at 7:22 a.m. there. So you're big in Australia, I guess.
Wow, Australia. That's one place I haven't been and I would love to go. King Curtis and Mark Lewin, the Purple Haze, used to tell me stories about Australia. Jim Barnett, they used to run that part of the world. It's a long ways away. I love Australia. It's got, it's big and beautiful. The people are great. What was the question? I'm sorry.
The barbed wire match where you had to throw Sabu the tape.
Yeah, then I put the Australian people over because they're cool. And I met some cool Australians. The Kangaroos. Remember those guys years ago?
Yeah, the fabulous Kangaroos. Yeah.
Yeah. The barbed wire match was spectacular. You know what happened in that match? So they booked the match. It's a big deal. So the guy that puts the ring up, one of the guys that puts the ring up, they send him to go buy the barbed wire like days before, weeks before or something. So there's like several different strains of barbed wire. There's like barbed wire A is a small bob. Barbed wire B is the bigger bob. And the barbed wire C is like the biggest with big prongs on it like this to keep the 2,000-pound cattle out. You know what I mean? So they were supposed to get the small barbed wire, which hurt you less. But the guy made a mistake and said, just give me any barbed wire. They gave him the roughest barbed wire. And they put it up. They take intermission, they put the thing up, the match is ready to go, and then somebody's it's too late now. We can't take that barbed wire down and put a new barbed wire up. They just have to go with it. So they went with it, had a spectacular thing. And what amazed me was there was a spot where Sabu throws Terry Funk into the turnbuckle, come charging in, and Terry Funk moves, and Sabu flies in and catches his arm right here, and his weight takes him down, and it rips his arm from here all the way to his elbow, and it was like that thick. His meat was hanging out, and there's a long. Oh my God! So Sabu looks at his arm. He goes into shock for about a few seconds. He goes, like that. You see your fucking brains hanging out. You know what I mean? But then he came to and said, Fonzie, give me some tape. Go give me some tape. Hurry, please. So I run back to the dressing room and get the white tape, the athletic tape. So what else can we do? So Sabu starts taping his arm up like that. It's crazy. While he's taping his arm up, Terry Funk gives him a reverse neck breaker. Watch the match. You see what I'm talking about? Gives him a reverse neck breaker on the chair. He's still taping his arm up. It's the coolest thing I've ever seen. And they finished the match. It was so hardcore. And I ended up getting, barbed wire on my back and a little juice on my back, tore my shirt up, and I got beat up a little bit by Terry Funk. But, no big deal for me. And at the end of the match, they were so entangled in the barbed wire. You'll see some of the footage if you watch the thing. We had to spend 20 minutes cutting them out of the barbed wire with, wire cutters and shit. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen. And then backstage, this is pretty cool. Backstage, now we have a doctor with, Pennsylvania State Athletic Commission has got to be a doctor there at every event, and, paramedics and all that. So they know how bad so they had to take their time and untape Sabu. And Sabu says, They want to rush him to the hospital. Sabu says, no, give me stitches right now. No anesthesia. So they start stitching Sabu up with no anesthesia. Craziest thing I've ever done. So halfway through the stitches, Sabu says, okay, it hurts. Fonzie, go to 7-Eleven and get me super glue. Now they have super glue that's medical super glue where they put it on and heal a cut up, but it's medical grade. It's not, it doesn't have petroleum and all that. So Sabu gets some normal super glue from the 7-Eleven and squirts it on his arm and squeezes it shut. The craziest fucking thing I've ever seen. And then the next week we're working again. Crazy. And he won the belt that night. Pretty cool.
Last question here, because I know we're winding it down. I see the captain.
Quick, brother. Last question. We're on the clock, Daddy.
Hey, look who I got standing behind me. Big mouth himself, Daddy.
The captain.
Big mouth himself, the captain. He calls himself the captain, but hey,
I told him question from the UK. He just wants to know your favorite wrestling moment, and could you blow the whistle, please?
Hell yeah, Daddy, I can blow my whistle. Okay, Daddy, there's too many great matches to pinpoint one, but I'm going to name some. Ric Flair and Steamboat, I think WrestleMania 3. Watch that match, you'll be amazed. Harley Race and Barry Windham. I'm just going to name some spectacular wrestlers. Ray Stevens. You know that bump that Flair does where he gets thrown in the turnbuckle, he flips over and goes over the top rope and walks down.
He calls it the whoop-de-doo, apparently.
That's the Ray Stevens. I call it the Ray Stevens bump. So does everybody else. That's where he got it from. Ray Stevens, spectacular worker. Oh, my God, Dick Murdoch and those guys. The Sheik, not a wrestling match, but, a fight. You know what I mean? When they pull out the fork and have crazy stuff. Too many spectacular moments to pinpoint one of them, but I'm just naming a few. One night, it was Christmas night. The holidays, Daddy, are big nights for professional wrestling. Because, the people open up their presents, what they do at night? They go to the Omni in Atlanta, Georgia, and watch a wrestling show. So it was Christmas night, December 25th, Bayfront Center in St. Petersburg, Florida, right outside of Tampa Bay. Sold out. And it was Dusty Rhodes against Kevin Sullivan and a loser leave town match. Now, boy, it was crazy. So they're having a match, and here comes Santa Claus, and in a costume, full-fledged Santa Claus. He's handing candy out to the kids during the match. You know what I mean? Santa Claus has been walking around all night, giving presents out and candy all night during all the matches. So he approaches ringside, and they're wrestling, and Santa Claus pulls out of his bag a gimmick, like a pair of brass knuckles or something, and hands them to Kevin Sullivan, Santa Claus, and Kevin Sullivan, boom, knocks Dusty out, pins him. 1, 2, 3. Oh my God, Dusty lost the match. Santa Claus slips him a gimmick. He's got to leave town. People could not believe their eyes. This is back in the 80s when, wrestling was real, kind of, you know what I mean? So the people went nuts. But Dusty came back as a Midnight Rider with a mask on. And we had another spectacular run. Midnight Rider, Daddy. I can go on and on with the wrestlers about spectacular.
No, you can't, Bill, because Hannibal's taking advantage of you
we'll
right now.
need a part two. We will need
No, Hannibal, that's it.
Excuse me, Hannibal.
Kindness for weakness. We're done with you, brother.
Excuse
That's
me,
it,
Hannibal.
Daddy. Captain says out.